This is video one for the chain reactions, nuclear reactors, and atomic bombs unit. Kind of a long title here. The learning goals for this unit. I want you to be able to discuss what happens in a chain reaction. I want you to understand what critical mass is. And I want you to be able to explain how a nuclear power plant produces electricity. So let's get started with a chain reaction. So there's a lot of different types of things that follow this chain reaction model. Nuclear explosions being one, but cancer also. Population, lightning, viruses, snow and rock avalanches, all of these follow this principle of a chain reaction. Other related phenomenon would be Moore's Law, which Moore's Law has been very, very important for the computer revolution. Moore's Law helps us understand how, or models how computing power doubles every 2 years or so. There's other chain reactions that we can use as well. So to get the idea for how a chain reaction works, let's take a look at a chessboard. A chessboard has it's 8 squares wide and 8 squares long. So there's a total of 64 squares on a chessboard. Well, let's say we place 1 grain of rice, or 1 grain of wheat, on the first square. Then 2 grains on the second square. Then 4 on the third, then 8 on the fourth. So how many grains of wheat would we have on that last square? So let's get a picture of this. So let's get a grid here. Alright, so we have our 8 by 8. So we would put 1 grain of wheat on the first one, then 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, then 64, and we can keep going on. So in other words, if I were to use math on the first square, that would be like 2 raised to the 0th power, which equals 1. On the second square, that'd be like 2 raised to the first power, which equals 2. On the third square, that'd be like 2 raised to the 2 power, which equals 4. So hopefully you can see this pattern, how this is working out here. So going down then, we can keep going. So for the 64th square, that'd be the same as 2 raised to the 63rd power, which is a very, very, very big number. It's so long, I'm going to use scientific notation, which is 9. So on the 64th square, I would have to place 9.22 times 10 to the 18th grains of wheat. That is a lot. In other words, if we stacked all this wheat on the last square, it would be 20 billion kilometers tall. It would take light 1 day to travel that total distance from the top to the bottom of that pile. To put that in perspective, it takes light 8 minutes to travel from the sun to the earth. So it'd be a pile that would stretch much, much, much further past the sun. So that's kind of the basics of a chain reaction. It starts small, and then it goes through what we call exponential growth. If I were to kind of make a plot of this, it's something that would, the plot would look something like this. So it's not quite a parabola, but it would be exponential growth. So nuclear reactions kind of work this way. it's very important that we use uranium-235 because when a neutron hits uranium-235, it has a high probability of triggering the breakup of that nucleus into two smaller pieces. We call that fission. So in addition, the two fragments, there are two large fragments, and then two neutrons are usually released. These neutrons make the chain reaction possible. So if there are other nuclei or uranium-235 nuclei nearby, those stray neutrons might hit them, causing an additional fissions. And that causes a doubling process that can continue. So here's the general idea. When we have one neutron hitting a uranium-235, it turns it into uranium-236. Now, uranium-235 is actually stable. It has a half-life of several billions of years. But uranium-236 has a half-life of a couple nanoseconds. It's very, very unstable. So when this uranium-236 goes through fission, we get our daughter nuclei. Krypton-92 and barium-141 are two possibilities. We also get a lot of energy. And then notice we get somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 neutrons. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. Now what can happen then is that those neutrons, so if I have a large collection of uranium-235s, those neutrons can hit those other nearby uranium-235s, causing them to go through fission. Now, each fission of uranium nucleus releases about 30 million times as much energy as a molecule of TNT. So in other words, 10 kilograms, and this is with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, they call that a significant amount. So 10 kilograms of uranium-235 is equivalent to about 30 million kilograms of TNT, or 300 kilotons of TNT. So it's a lot of energy. Another type of reaction would be the fetus inside a mother. So you and me and everyone, we begin life as a single cell. That cell then divides in a process called fission. When the two resulting pairs divide again, we go from 1 cell to 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells to 16. So how many times did the cells have to divide to make a complete human body? Well, there are about 10 to the 11 cells in a human. So 10 to the 11 is approximately equal to 2 to the 37th. So in other words, we had 37 doublings. So even if each division took a day, the whole process should be done in 37 days if you think about that. However, it takes 9 months to be born. So why is that? Well, it turns out that cells, they simply cannot keep dividing rapidly. They have to grow in between the divisions, and that takes nutrients. So here, this is just a little graphic illustrating this division process. But still, it's kind of interesting to kind of boil it down. A single cell, after 37 doublings, becomes a complete human. So it's kind of, I think that really shows the power of a chain reaction. An unwanted chain reaction can be cancer. So when a baby reaches full size, the body then turns off that chain reaction. So that usually happens after puberty. Many of the cells maintain the ability to turn the chain reaction back on. So think of if you get like a cut or you get damaged in some way. The cells turn on their ability to go through that chain reaction, that division process to help repair the damage. So the potential damage then of unrestricted splitting, it's so great that our cells have several mechanisms to turn off that chain reaction. So if all else fails, the cells can be signaled to kill itself, known as apoptosis. If I'm saying that correct, I'm probably not. So if your cells are unlucky to receive several specific mutations, they lose the ability to terminate. So if this happens, the cells then can grow unregulated, continuing to double and double and double. So when that happens, we say that the cells have become a cancer. If the cells stay in one region of the body, their reproduction can be limited by their ability to get nutrients. So if you have a cancerous growth that stays in one place, it eventually runs out of nutrients, and then we call that a benign cancer. However, if those cells are the type that can break off and drift in your bloodstream to a different part where they can get more nutrients, then we call the cancer malignant. So kind of a morbid topic, but one that we do need to understand how it works. All right, that's going to conclude video 1.